So earlier this year, I quit my job to go save children from being raped. That's not where I should start. Let me back up. My name is Ian. Full name is Ian Andrew Nelson, so my initials spell my name, I-A-N. My parents were very clever people. I am a creative director and photographer living in Portland, Oregon. I was born in Portland. However, speaking of that, my life did not get off to a very good start. I was born with a severe medical condition. It's a form of infant sleep apnea where actually as a baby, my whole first year of life, I would stop breathing in my sleep on an average of 20 to 30 times each night. And so I spent a lot of time in the hospital. Even when they released me, I was hooked up to a heart monitor at home and all these wires. My parents jokingly called me the bionic baby. I would stop breathing in the middle of the night and the monitor would go off and my mom would run in a panic and give me a nudge so I'd wake up to take a breath. It was very stressful for her. She's an amazing woman, saved my life probably 1,000 times just in my first year of living. Needless to say, to state the obvious, I survived. I love photography because life is filled with all of these powerful moments that we can never get back, but if you capture it with a photograph, you can always have that moment to be able to look back to and allow some of those feelings to come back and enter back into those moments. For me, like my favorite kind of photography is landscape photography. I've just always loved being in the outdoors, growing up in the Northwest. And there's just something so powerful about being out here in the wild. It always has a way of reminding me of my smallness and changing my perspective, helping me remember that life is so much bigger than me and just my context. There's so many amazing, powerful, huge things happening out there in the world, and it's just nice to get out here and find peace, and yeah, I love it. I had a pretty great childhood, very blessed to have two parents who stuck around and raised my siblings and I very well. We had our ups and downs like anyone does in their childhood. One thing that's kind of important in our story is growing up, I was poor. My dad, who is an amazing man, hit a streak of bad luck and lost a business. We had to move around, downsize homes multiple times, went in debt, lived below the American poverty line. But I'm actually really grateful for that because it taught me growing up to be content with little and to never base decisions in life on money, but more on things that truly matter. Probably the most significant thing that happened is at a young age, I experienced God. And yeah, I just had this moment where looking at life, like I just had this overwhelming sense that God is real, that there is a God who loves me and made me, and that life isn't arbitrary or meaningless, but that there's purpose because of that. And I know even saying all that might sound weird to some of you, and I totally get that, but that's my experience. And honestly, that's been the best part of my life. Fast forward though, later I was able to go to college on scholarship and got a degree in business. Fell in love with an incredible girl named Sarah. We got married. Today we have two beautiful little kids. My boy Grayer is 3 years old. He's awesome, and he's a good-looking boy. We call him Grayer the Lady Slayer. And then Ruby is our 1-year-old, and she melts my heart. I've been blessed to work some amazing jobs over the last decade. Most recently, I was working for one of the largest churches here in Portland for the last 6.5 years. During that time, I've gotten more into the creative arts and photography and writing and storytelling, and I was very blessed, loved that job. However, at some point last year, I started getting this sort of unsettled feeling inside, like there was something else that I was needing to do. And at first I didn't even know what to do with that, and so I just started waiting and being patient and having conversations with my wife about it. Well, my wife and I ended up getting invited to go on a trip to Thailand by Remember New, which is an organization dealing with human trafficking. Specifically, they prevent children from being sold into the sex trade around the world. While we were there on the trip in Asia, we learned that there are 1.2 million children being sold each year in our world. And we walked the streets of the red light district there in Bangkok, where in that particular city, there's children locked up, some of them being raped on an average of 12 to 16 times each night. And it's one of the most devastating things in the world. But then we go and we visit these Remember New children's homes where they've protected these children from being sold into the trade, and just to see the joy and the hope and the future that these children have was so incredibly inspiring and life-changing. And my wife and I immediately started talking and praying, and we just right away knew that I was supposed to quit my job and go help this organization. And so, kind of crazy, but 2 months later, that's exactly what I did. Remember New actually got its name from my friend New. This is New. She's amazing. New was, as a child, a Vietnamese refugee living in Cambodia with her grandmother, and they hit some desperate times, and New's grandmother ended up selling her to a man for sex multiple times. During one of those nights of being victimized, New cried out to God, asking God to not let this type of thing happen to children anymore. And little did New know that someone would end up hearing her story and sharing it at this conference. And sitting at this conference was an American insurance salesman by the name of Carl from Ohio. And the moment he heard this story about this girl New in Cambodia, he was shook to the core, and he immediately felt like he heard God say 2 words in his head: remember New, remember her. Well, that sparked a series of events where over the next few years, Carl ended up quitting his job and traveling to Asia multiple times. He eventually found New, adopted her, and together they started this organization, Remember New, which is committed to ending child sex slavery through prevention. What we do is we identify and find children who are at risk of being sold. We remove them from that situation and place them into a children's home where their physical, emotional, spiritual, and educational needs can be met. As of the time that this video is being made, we have 55 children's homes in 12 different countries around the world. Currently, we have over 1,200 children in our care who right now are being protected from ever having to worry about the sex trade, and they are free to grow up with an education and learn a second language and have all kinds of opportunities for the future. And I work as the Director of Communications, or the Creative Director, here stateside, but get to travel over there, visit these children's homes, and I just can't say enough about how fulfilling it is to be doing what I know I'm supposed to be doing right now in this season of my life, and to get to be a part of something that is a solution to a massive problem like sex trafficking. I'm very passionate about children as a father, obviously, but I've always, even more than that, I'm just passionate about people in general. And I talk to a lot of people who are trying to figure out what their purpose is and what they're doing in life. And my encouragement to them is to be patient, but at the same time, always be ready for life to take a turn that you didn't expect. And when that moment comes, be ready to have faith and be willing to take risks, no matter the cost, to do what you know you should or what you know that God's calling you to do. And it's always going to be worth it. I mean, take me for example, like, I'm just a normal person.
It's tag with a ball. 1,
Who's it first?
2, 3.
What are we
Amy's it!
We're gonna go big.
I was ran into the fence.
Red, white,
blue.
Well, I'm not that normal, I guess. I mean, I'm not that much different from anyone else watching this, but if there's one thing that I've learned over the years, it's that ordinary people like us can make a tremendous impact in the world. I think about things all the time, like, just look at science. Just by breathing oxygen, you are having an effect on the environment around you. And I think about, for example, like the words that we speak as human beings, they have power to either build people up or tear them down. The decisions we make in life, the choices we have, we can either see them as opportunities for ourselves, or we could see it as an opportunity to bring hope and joy and peace and life to other people and the world around us. Right now, in the US, there's black people being shot in these racially charged events. There's police officers being shot. I mean, globally, ISIS is doing all these acts of terror, the sex trade. There's so much ugliness in the world. There's enough brokenness, but we have to realize at the same time there's so much hope, and there's a ton of good that's taking place, and so much more good that can be done. As long as people like you and I care enough to actually do something about it, there's hope. And so we can, complain and debate on social media and just kind of go about our lives, or we can be the kind of people who resolve every single day to be a part of bringing beauty and hope into the world. For me, at this point in my life, that looked like quitting my job and starting this. But what does it look like for you? I can't answer that for you, only you can. But if there's one thing I know, it's that as long as you can start one day at a time seeing yourself as a person of influence and realizing that your decisions have the ability to better the world around you, and you're willing to make sacrifices for that, then only good can come. One of the reasons that News Story inspires me so much is because one of those nights, during the worst moment of her entire life, she wasn't thinking about herself, she was thinking about how she could help others. And if in the worst moment of that girl's life, she could do that and live through something like that, wanting to help others, then I can do the same. We can do the same. This is my favorite spot in Oregon. Obscure little island called Thunder Island, Cascade Locks. Can't get enough of it.